We thought we'd keep Marcus as a little surprise for you, as a reward for everybody for staying. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
George, I will just start with you. You started with the intro with talking about how in 2012 you picked up a camera without much thought about what you were going to do. This is obviously a story that has been heavily covered in the media at that point in time. So can you tell us a little bit about how you worked your way into the heart of this story and developed it from there?
Well, I'll start probably with best to talk about how I managed to work my way into
Indeed, yeah.
Marcus and Curtis allowing me to get anywhere near them with a video camera. But I met someone at a party in North London who's, I guess you could call her one of the community leaders from that area, and we just got talking, and it was a year after the riots, and I said I was a documentary filmmaker, and I just said I'd be really interested in making a film about the people who perhaps had a genuine reason for rioting, and she said, well, I know two people who fit that description, childhood friends of Mark, and I believe they might be interested in making a film, and she put me in touch with Marcus and Curtis, and we went from there.
So Marcus, what was that like? Because this is what then began quite a long partnership between you two. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What it's like when George first approached you, what were your thoughts? And then obviously you then spent, I imagine, quite an inordinate amount of time together over several years.
Yeah, so at the time I was working in Hammersmith Hospital, and Curtis told me that there was this guy that was interested in the idea that me and him discussed in terms of getting something out there for Mark. So I've come downstairs from work, I see this guy in his little push bike. I'm thinking, who's this guy, man? You get me? And obviously at them time, I was very, I suppose, ignorant, emotional, very angry. So I was a bit like, who's this guy, man? I don't even know if I want to talk to him, you get me? So anyway, we went into the canteen, sat down with him, started speaking. And just as I started to tell the story, it's like I kind of broke down and started crying. And I kind of explained to him that I wanted to do like a feature-length film on, I don't know, just something around obviously what had happened. And he said he doesn't actually do that, and that he does documentaries. And said that basically, from what I'd been telling him, that we already have a story here, and why don't we like shoot what you're speaking about? So I didn't really understand what he was saying. I didn't really see his vision. And it's only obviously after a while, he's following us around with the camera, we're filming, and it's like a little bit of me thought, I wonder if this guy's an undercover police officer or something. Like I wonder if he's CID or, you get what I'm saying? So there was a lot of times where I kind of made it difficult for him, but I mean, he sincerely stayed around. I mean, when I went to prison, like he stayed around the family. You understand? Like he was there, man. So he became like a big brother, uncle sort of figure to me. You get me? And then when I came out of prison and he showed us the first like rough cut of the film, again I broke down crying because I thought to myself, wow, this was your vision. You understand? So obviously when I saw it, I thought, okay, like this is what you're doing. And I mean, it's been an experience, man. It's been a long road. It's been an experience. But I give thanks for it because I believe it's given me life, man. I mean, it's opened up my eyes to the bigger world. You understand? Before I met George, you get me, I was kind of on the streets, involved in certain things I wouldn't really want to speak about. But I give thanks for this experience because now I just want to share with the youths what I've experienced. You understand? In terms of the world's bigger than what you think it is. You understand? So, yeah, man.
Fantastic. I'm going to open it up in a second, so can I ask you to have questions ready? But Dionne, can I just say, the film wraps with quite a grim statistic about deaths in custody, and I'm wondering how you are leveraging this film to try to sort of make an impact in the community, and how things indeed might be, what you see as a snapshot of the state of play today.
I think, in fact, in August, it'll be 5 years since the riots and Mark Duggan's death. And currently we're planning a screening in Parliament, for example, because David Lammy, the MP of Tottenham, is now is actually steering a consultation on kind of racial bias in the justice system. So we're screening the film in relation to that. So and obviously the idea is to look at the wider police in custody issue, as well as Mark Duggan's death.
And can you update us on where the friends and family are in terms of healing, I guess? And we saw them quite soon after the verdict, which was caused such pain.
I mean, they're still going through it. I mean, Mark lost his father a year after he had passed, 2012. And then his mum shortly was diagnosed with cancer. So, I mean, they're still dealing with it. I mean, Marlon now, 5 years kind of later, he's starting to go to counselling and stuff like that. So they're dealing with it, but it's still like fresh wounds, man.
Yeah, it's still raw. Can
Yeah.
I have some questions, please? And we have a roaming mics as usual. There's one right here in the aisle, please. And then we'll take... okay, and then we'll come to you in the back row.
My name's Peter Totson. I just wanted to ask about the actual shooter, the policeman that shot Mark. You said he's V53 or something. So I was kind of wondering, we've seen with what's happened in Hillsborough, get justice after 27 years. So the truth has a way of getting out. So I was wondering, is there a way of finding out the name of this chap, policeman, and the people around him at the time, the other policemen, how perhaps his name will come out, and then the truth will come out that he actually lied, and he's a coward to kill an unarmed man. Is there a way of finding out the name of the policeman that shot Mark?
All that has been published is that he's V53. So, and there's obvious reasons why his name's been kept secret.
In the years in the future, there must be a way of finding his name, I think.
Well, I mean, I'm the wrong person.
I'm not really sure. I think for his safety, I think they would probably keep that a secret. I don't think they would ever come out into the public domains. I'm not sure. I don't know. But like Stephen Lawrence and like you said, the Hillsborough, like things do find a way of coming out. So hopefully, God willing, you understand, we'll get.
I mean, I think, was it 2 days ago, an officer has just been convicted for the Stephen Lawrence for being involved with one of the killer's father, and therefore helping to kind of do a cover-up afterwards. I believe an officer's just been convicted for 14 years as a result of that, but it's quite a long time afterwards.
I'm going to go to the aisle here, which I meant before, because I've just... And then we'll go right to the back row, please. Maybe if you want to hook it up, because there's quite a few hands up.
Thanks very much. Just observation first. Beautiful piece of filmmaking, humane, human. Just thank you so much for that. Everybody involved. Very powerful piece of work. For me, how did you come to choose the composer of the score? Because that cello, I think it's a cello, just the sounds that you've got there, that, along with everything else, it's just so effective.
Well, the composer, a chap called Roger, well, actually, he likes to be called Roger, but I kept on calling him, he's Spanish, so I kept on calling him Roger. But he's a graduate from the National Film Television School, and there's a lot of, the NFTS, Dick Fontaine's sitting in the front there, and I think Asher is another one of my teachers way back when, is somewhere in the audience. But, the NFTS looms large over this film. I graduated in 2000, and, I think 4 of the editors over the period of time we were editing the film were from NFTS. And so was Roger. And, we started off with, as we often do, with a guide track. And Michael, who was editing at the time, had found this lovely piece of music. And, we wanted, after coming back from the Sundance editing lab, we realized we wanted a bit of music that was, A, did a job storytelling-wise, and B, did a job in terms of conveying an emotion. And we found a piece of cello music by a artist whose name I can't remember what her name is, but she's known. It's a beautiful piece of music, and existing music really fitted well what we were doing and the story we were trying to tell. But of course, I kind of fell in love with the temp track, as we call it. And when Roger came along, my first instruction was, look, don't just copy the temp track and as much as possible without any legal issues arising. And I think Roger, God bless him, went out of his way to tell me by his actions to, stuff myself sort of thing, and did his own thing. And it was, at first I didn't really understand what he was doing, and, by and by, I think the point came when, I got so used to this music and what it was, and I went back and listened to the temp track, and I was just like, what the hell was I thinking? And it was like, it's weird.
We have a mic right up in the back row.
Yeah, hi. Two questions, sorry. One's to George. What was, because I noticed in the film, I don't know if it's by the edit, but Marcus was very different. I felt he was like real different when he came back. Was your approach with Marcus different? Did you have to approach him differently as well? Or is that just the edit? He was probably the same, but then...
Well, I first noticed he was putting on weight when we went to visit him in prison. But I don't know. He, as far as difference was concerned, I think Marcus was someone that when I first met him, as he said, we met in where he's working. I always felt there was a quietness, and the phrase "still waters runs deep" was something that always sprang to mind where he was concerned. But if you're talking about the shot when we pick him up from the prison and we're going back, and he after his initial sort of joking and reconnecting with Curtis, and then there's a look where he looks quite somber. And to me, we put that, and we made a point of editing that in, because I felt a strong sense of he's come out of prison and he's free in terms of there's no longer, bars around him, but he still wants to know what's going to happen to his friend.
Yeah.
The inquest verdict had not happened yet, and I was quite moved at that point, because I kind of it made me realise as well, from being behind the camera, that he's a man who's he's come out of prison, and albeit we've formed a relationship, the only reason I'm there filming with him is because of what's happened to his friend.
Wow. And sorry, the second question's to Marcus. How's your mentoring going? Because it felt watching it that you had a higher purpose almost. It seemed that, so you had I was kind of watching your character develop, which was pretty cool. And I thought you guys done an amazing job doing that throughout the whole documentary. But even you getting to meet the police officer, the ex-police officer and stuff. So I just kind of want to know, how's it going for you and the mentoring of the young people?
So that particular company that I was working for, it was a government-funded organisation, and they kind of ran out of funding, so they stopped. But from working with them, it kind of inspired me to do something similar. So at the moment, it's still in the developing stages. I'm setting up a mentoring organisation that will develop mentors that will then work closely with the community, schools, junior schools, colleges within Hallam.
There's someone's grabbed the mic in the back, and then we'll come to the front.
Sorry,
Okay,
sneaky.
That's all right.
I think it seems like there's a lot of focus now on the police, and in a very negative way. I mean, there's been a lot of TV dramas about police corruption. There's been films, there's been the Hillsborough disaster and undercover police, as well as all the stuff in America about the shooting of unarmed black men and the death of people in custody. Same in the UK. And I feel anyway that the system, the way that we do things in terms of the police is inherently flawed. There is a problem with the system. It doesn't work, and it is inherently racist, and that can't continue when so many lives are at risk all the time. What do you think is the solution? How can we rebuild a police system and justice system that works?
I think it's just getting them to build a better relationship with the community. I mean, like, one of my intentions is to have like a screening and even have like a dialogue with the police in terms of us being like people from the community, you lot being people that's supposed to protect the community, sit down at a table, put all our problems on the table and just try and find solutions on how we can live together in that same society without there having to be any deaths in police custody or kids walking down the street seeing police and feeling like, oh, you know what? You understand? Because even now, me, you understand, like, I'm not involved in anything, but it's like when you see a police officer, it's like you get that in your heart. You get what I'm saying? And I don't know if anyone else experiences that, but that's what we go through daily. You understand? So I think it's just building a better relationship, communicating with them more, instead of us just being standoffish and them being standoffish. Just come together, man, you get me? Because we both have to live in the community.
Thank you.
Thanks. I thought it was an amazing film. I wanted to ask all three of you, like, who are the filmmakers that have the biggest influence on you?
Filmmakers that have influenced you.
Well, for me, it's John Amponsah in this context, because he's covered some of the same issues and within Britain. I mean, there are many filmmakers that influence, but within this context, John Amponsah.
Where this film's concerned, I'd like to say several who were at the Sundance Editing Lab, which I was privileged to attend in 2013 with the rough cut for this film. And that would be Joe Beanie, who's edited over 20 of Werner Herzog's films, Ross McElwee, who made a film called Sherman's March, which I first saw in the 1980s, which made me realize the scope of what a documentary could be. Jean Chan, another fantastic editor. Just a lot of people who contributed so much to this film, but the main thing they contributed was to, because, when we took the rough cut on the Sundance Editing Lab, we couldn't get around a problem. And we felt that we had to set up the context of the film by showing the context of the film, which was news archive and, the riots and what happened to Mark. And then from there, the film went into the personal story as told by Marcus and Curtis, but it just didn't work. And what people like Joe Beanie conveyed to us at the editing lab was that, look, what story do you want to tell? It seems you want to tell a human story. So start with the humanity and start with the emotion, whatever that emotion is, and if it's sadness, anger, or a combination of those things, start with that, and then you can bring in the context, and start to drip feed that in later, and that's what we did, and it was like I must say that was a sort of defining moment for this film. So I'd say, to answer your question, Joe Beanie, Jean Chan, to name but a few.
Great. Marcus, do you have any filmmakers that you would like to mention?
He wanted a feature film to be made, so you obviously had an idea of what a feature film was, informed by what you watched.
Yeah, George Amponsah.
I'll pay you later, all right?
There are a lot of hands up. We, of course, are out of time. I'm really sorry about that. I'm sure that the filmmakers and Marcus will be sticking around and can talk to you individually. Thank you so much.